In the heart of an African village, nestled between vast green fields and a flowing river, lived a man named Kwame. He was kind-hearted, hardworking, and always willing to help others, yet he had one physical feature that made him the subject of endless gossip: his unusually large head. Whenever he walked through the village, people whispered, laughed, and pointed at him. Some even gave him cruel nicknames, making him the center of their amusement. Despite his kindness, no woman in the village wanted to marry him. Mothers warned their daughters against him, saying they wouldn't want children with such a large head. The mockery hurt Kwame deeply, but he tried to hide his pain behind a forced smile. Every night, he sat outside his small hut, staring at the stars, wondering if he would ever find happiness. One day, after overhearing a group of men making jokes about him at the marketplace, Kwame decided he had had enough. He realized he could not change how people saw him, but he could change his own future. Instead of drowning in self-pity, he made a bold decision to focus on his education. He had always been intelligent, and he knew that knowledge was a path to success. Determined to escape the cycle of ridicule, he spent his days studying under an old village teacher and his nights reading by the dim light of a lantern. The same people who mocked him were now puzzled by his silence and determination. Though the laughter continued, Kwame ignored it. His mind was set on something bigger than their cruel words. Pursuing education in the village was not easy. Kwame had to walk miles to the nearest school, carrying his books in a torn bag. Some students teased him, while others avoided him altogether. Even teachers, though not as cruel, often underestimated him because of his appearance. But Kwame refused to be discouraged. He studied harder than anyone else, determined to prove that he was more than just the man with a big head. His hunger for knowledge became his strength, and slowly, his efforts began to bear fruit. He started excelling in his classes, impressing his teachers with his intelligence and dedication. As the years passed, Kwame's hard work paid off, and he was offered a scholarship to study in the city. This was his chance to escape the mockery and build a future for himself. Packing his few belongings, he bid farewell to the village, ignoring the taunts of those who said he would never succeed. The city was unlike anything he had ever seen: tall buildings, busy streets, and endless opportunities. However, it also came with its own challenges. People still stared at his head, but in the city, no one had time to gossip like in the village. For the first time, Kwame felt a sense of freedom. Kwame poured himself into his studies, determined to make the most of his opportunity. He studied medicine, inspired by a deep desire to help others. Despite his appearance, he gained respect among his peers for his intelligence and work ethic. With time, he built strong friendships with people who valued him for his mind rather than his looks. For the first time, he felt accepted. Still, he couldn't ignore the longing in his heart, the hope that one day, he would also be loved for who he was, not just what he had accomplished. As Kwame advanced in his studies, he learned about medical procedures that could reshape physical features. The thought of surgery lingered in his mind. Could he finally change the one thing that had caused him so much pain? Would altering his appearance bring him the happiness he desired? After much thought, he decided to undergo surgery. It was a difficult decision, not because he wanted to fit in, but because he wanted to feel confident in himself. The procedure was risky, but Kwame was determined to go through with it. The day of the surgery arrived, and Kwame was filled with both excitement and fear. The doctors assured him that everything would go well. Hours later, he woke up, feeling different. As he slowly recovered, he looked in the mirror and was shocked. His head was now perfectly proportioned. For the first time in his life, he saw himself as handsome. His heart swelled with emotions he couldn't describe. He no longer had to be the man with the big head. He was simply Kwame, a man with intelligence, kindness, and now, confidence. After completing his education, Kwame decided to return to his village, not as the subject of ridicule but as a successful doctor. As he walked through the familiar paths, the same villagers who had once mocked him now stared in disbelief. Women who had once rejected him now admired him, and men who had laughed at him now wanted to be his friends. Everyone wanted to know his secret, but Kwame only smiled. He knew that while his appearance had changed, what truly mattered was the journey he had taken to become the man he was today. News of Kwame's return spread quickly, and suddenly, the women who had once turned him down were eager to get his attention. They dressed in their finest clothes, hoping he would notice them. Mothers who had warned their daughters against him now whispered about how he would make a fine husband. But Kwame had grown wiser. He was no longer desperate for validation from those who had mocked him. He wanted a woman who would love him for who he was, not just for his looks or success. He decided to take his time, knowing that the right person would come along. Kwame eventually met a woman who loved him not for his appearance but for his heart and intelligence. She had admired his determination long before his transformation and had always believed in him. Together, they built a beautiful life, one based on love and respect rather than shallow judgments. As he sat outside his new home one evening, gazing at the stars, Kwame reflected on his journey. He had gone from being the village outcast to a respected doctor, not because of his appearance but because he had believed in himself.